Hi everyone, and welcome to the 5th season of We Built This White Lake. My name is Stephanie Ware, Executive Director with the White Lake Area Chamber of Commerce, and I am so excited to kick off our season a little different than how we have in the past. I have with me today Ken Diamond and Chuck Hulce, and I'm going to go right in and let you both just introduce yourselves and your history with Montague and Whitehall.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to have you go ahead because you hired me. So.
Well, okay. I came to the area in 1969, and that's I think 57 years ago, and I've been associated with both school districts as a teacher, a coach, and an administrator, and have lived the life here with the Battle of the Bell, and it's been interesting.
I started my journey here in Montague in 1986. Chuck, as I said earlier, hired me to fill in for him, I think.
Yes,
yeah.
I retired.
Yeah, you
again.
retired and again. And I took over for him in 86 and coached until 2003, but I was an administrator also and retired in 2016. So it was a few years back. It's already, I can't believe it's almost 10 years already since I retired, but
It's been 20 for me.
yeah, I can imagine.
So if you're watching this, you can probably tell the topic this week. The theme is Montague versus Whitehall and the Battle of the Bell and the history of that. So the Battle of the Bell has become a very big tradition in our community. Can you walk us through how it all started, or maybe what's known of the early years?
Well, there was a group way back called the Town Criers, and they started the rivalry, or the bell actually, and then after a few years it went dormant for a while, and then it was resurrected, and I can't remember which year, but this should be about the 119th game for Whitehall and Montague, and that's not straight years. It's in the 50s and 60s. Montague and Whitehall played twice a year, at the beginning and at the end of the season. And there's quite a rivalry.
I kind of came in the middle of all that. In 1986, things had really progressed by that time. So I don't remember the story about the Town Criers, I don't think, but I know it has been a well-established rivalry over the years, and Chuck and I think, were able to add to that and help it along.
I'd heard it said, and I do not know, that it's the oldest high school rivalry in the state of Michigan.
Well, could be, that very well could
Yeah.
be. And I think it's a healthy rivalry.
Mm-hmm.
Ken is from a football background, a community, and so am I. And I think where I went to high school, we didn't have any rivalries like this. And I think this is a very good rivalry.
I'd add to that when you said it was a healthy rivalry, and I never had a negative experience with the games that I coached anyways. You know, always heated and competitive. You always wanted to win, but it never turned negative.
In the end,
that I know of.
After the game was over, people were still friends, and it's amazing how once that clock is out,
Mm-hmm.
everybody's back to normal, and friends and relatives, and everything's okay. And the sun came up the next morning.
It sure did.
Well, and back during my era, and Chuck's too, our kids played together in White Lake Youth Sports, so they were very good friends with each other. Those have kind of separated at this point. I still think they're still friends, and they played in other sports with their competitors, and I think that kind of drives the friendly rivalry.
Well, and there's, the mom might be from Montague and the dad from Whitehall, and you have that, so both communities are related to one another, and so that that adds to the rivalry, at least the bragging rights for a year, so.
For a year, because then it could all change.
And you had to find a place, if you wanted, you had to find a place to store it. And put it on display. It was always difficult in a small school like ours to find a spot like
Yeah.
that.
So from your perspective, how would you say the game's evolved over time, both on the field and maybe even in the stands?
Well, I think on the field, it's gone through the trends that football goes through. You know, it goes from wing T to the spread offense everybody seems to be running now, and it'll turn back again. I've already noticed in some of the playoffs, the wing T's starting to make an appearance again, or you got your power I, or you get your midline veers, and that kind of stuff. You know, so from the strategic standpoint, I think it's traveled the normal evolution that other schools have been through.
Yep, it defensively also, it mirrors the trends of the day, that whatever defenses are trending then, is what people run, and as long as they can stop the offense. So I think the game in Whitehall and Montague is kept up with the times.
Yeah.
So rivalry games can bring out a lot of emotion, both good and bad, mostly good, but especially with two schools that are so close in proximity, and also close with each other, which you guys have already hit on a little bit. So most of these students have played together their whole lives. What have been some of the toughest parts preparing the teams for it, both mentally and physically?
Well, mentally, it's become more difficult because it's not the first game of the season anymore. It's during the season, and back in the old days, when it was the beginning of the season, both teams were 0-0, and so nobody knew what was going to happen, allegedly, and so I think it was more competitive just because nobody knew what to expect. Now, I think if one team is 3-0 and the other one is 0-3, obviously the 3-0 team is going to be favored, but there have been some upsets that come down the pike too, with the team with the lesser wins ends up upsetting the other team.
Yeah, depending on where they are in the rotation of their schedule.
Yeah,
They
right.
could very well face the tougher part of their schedule
Right.
already, whereas another team may not have. So that plays a real important, definite role in that.
So do you guys have a favorite story maybe of sportsmanship between the two schools that have stood out to you?
Well, I think, you know, at the end of the game when, you know, the winning team has been excited to get the bell, they run over to get the bell, you know, and they sometimes forget to shake hands along the way.
Yeah.
And nobody takes offense to that, because everybody's been in that position one time or another. But I do think the camaraderie after the game, where people recover and congratulate each other or wish their condolences.
Yeah, just the excitement
Yeah.
of the game, and you know, to see the happiness in the kids' eyes. It's exciting still at my age, to see kids be happy like that and to have accomplished something.
A goal. You know, we're all into setting goals, and you know that is very definitely one of the ones highest on the list for both of our teams.
I've noticed at the end of the games, they're not just shaking hands. A lot of them are giving each other hugs and high fives because they're good friends. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Looking back, what are some of the most memorable moments from the Battle of the Bell games, whether it was a win or a comeback or just something that was unforgettable that happened that night?
Well, my first year at Whitehall, our opening game was against Montague, and my good friend Vern Hill was the head coach at Montague, and they ended up beating us. And Vern and I met at the middle of the field and hugged, and he whispered in my ear, you know that I'm a better coach than you. I've told you that for years. And Vern was my assistant at Montague, and yes, he was a better coach than me. But I got the next 2 years, he paid the price.
That's awesome.
Well, I had one of my assistants had a son on Whitehall's team, and they beat us that year. And he came over and gave me a hug and congratulated us and everything, and it was kind of cool.
Good. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So share a bit about maybe the community response to the game. So Montague versus Whitehall always feels like the biggest game of the year. I was saying ahead of all of this that it feels like the whole community is there. So with that, do you feel more than anything, it's not a town rivalry or a school rivalry so much as just a really great game and a piece of history?
Well, I think it's a rivalry
Yeah.
myself. I mean, I can think of the games that, the ones that I was earliest associated with. I remember we're down at Memorial Field and shoot, people were standing 3 deep, 4 deep around the whole perimeter of the
Yeah.
field, you know, because there was no seats left in the stands, obviously, because we didn't have very many seats. But almost like pull up the car and turn the headlights on.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. It just, yeah, it's like the whole, both communities shut down for that night, and everybody goes to the game. And all the restaurants and bars and grills that are open that night during the game are empty because people are at the game. And it's still that way today, and this, 2025, people have other things to do, and it's really surprising what the turnout still is at the games.
And I think that's pretty much regardless of what the records are of the teams too. You know, obviously it's huge if they come together at the end of the season with close to identical records and that. That probably adds to it a little bit, but I still think that it's a big deal.
So it's still a rivalry, but a healthy one.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
definitely something you do. You see the restaurants. I've seen a lot of them say, okay, we're going to stay open late so you can come after the game. And we've seen so many businesses jump in with like Montague versus Whitehall specials or like a color of this and a color of that. So, hey, who wins at the end of the week? So I watch like even the businesses get so involved every year, which is a lot of fun.
Well, there was a time during when I was coaching that the day after was kind of a big deal too, because a company would sponsor a thing where who could eat the sub the quickest or whatever it was. We used to have little competitions like that the day after too. So I think an attempt to kind of prolong that feeling.
So if you could give one message to today's players or fans before they run out into the field, what would it be?
I would say just to remember that it's just a game. You know, sometimes people get pretty wrapped up in other stuff and forget about this is 16, 17-year-old kids out there having fun, you know.
I would say have fun, give it your all, and when it's over, and whoever wins, wins, and go on to the next week, because the next day, win or lose, the sun's going to come up.
Is there anything else that maybe we didn't cover or I didn't ask that you want to share or say in regards to the Montague versus Whitehall?
I kind of like to recognize some of the other coaching staffs from Whitehall. You know, I'm not sure who you competed against with, but you know, certainly Bruce Baxter was most of the time who we competed against, along with his staff, and you know, with Mike Gilchrist and those guys. And they always did a great job of preparing for us and challenging us, and we're friends afterwards. You know, just like.
Well, Ron Backus was head football coach at Whitehall when I first came. Did an excellent job of preparing his teams. He had assistants like Red Harris and Tom DePewitt, always helped prepare the kids. And then there was John Heisinga and Bruce Baxter, just a whole bunch of good coaches and
Good people.
good people. I had some good assistants. Vern Hill, I mentioned before, Doug Hanna, Dan Seaver, just good people who were hardworking and were there for the kids, not for their own egos. And with the rivalry comes the flip of the coin that used to be held at the bridge on the river, and that was always exciting. It started back in the 70s, I believe, and continued for a while, then was gone for a while and came back. And I had the opportunity not only to be there as a coach, but for a few years I flipped the coin on the river, or on the bridge at the river. And for some odd reason it just went away, and I think that would be something to bring back.
Yeah, it's been off and on. I know I never experienced it. It had disappeared during my time. But then it did come back when Pat Collins took over. Somewhere during his tenure, they revived that. And I'm not sure who did that or who revived it or whatever, but it is kind of a neat tradition.
Yeah.
How did that work then with?
Well, first of all, both police stopped the traffic, and both bands marched behind the teams playing the fight song, and the teams came out to the bridge, and the captains came to the center, and it was just like a regular flip before the game, and pretty neat. A lot of people there, as you can imagine, and I just think it's a neat thing to resurrect.
So was that just like a symbolic flip, or so there was another flip?
It was the flip.
It was the flip.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So you had 24 hours to figure out what you were going to do. Yeah.
Well, thank you guys. Thank you both for joining us today. If you are watching, I hope you go and check out the Battle of the Bell, Montague versus Whitehall. It's at Montague this year. It's going to be a great day in the community, for the businesses, for the students, for the schools, for everyone. So thank you guys again for joining us.
Thanks a
My
lot.
pleasure.